What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Pulse. Today we're diving into a crucial conversation about autism in the media. Media holds immense power in shaping societal perceptions, and we want to examine the portrayals of autism we see on our screens. From movies to TV shows, news articles to social media, this episode delves into representation, challenges, and strides made in accurately depicting autism. So join us as we navigate the complex intersection of media and autism. Let's explore the role of media in shaping our perceptions of autism and work toward a world where every story is told with accuracy and empathy, right here on The Pulse. The portrayal of autism in media is seen both progress and setbacks, really. While there's been an increase in the presence of autistic characters in television, the question of whether these portrayals are accurate still remains. Historically, autism representation in media has been one-dimensional and often stereotypical, perpetuating misconceptions about the disorder itself, right? Recent shows like The Extraordinary Attorney Woo and It's Okay Not to Be Okay feature autistic characters who possess like extraordinary abilities such as savant syndrome. So these characters showcase strengths associated with autism, but they also face challenges and drawbacks. And so we like that multi-dimensional sort of feel. But some shows like the 4400 perpetuate more harmful stereotypes and stigmatize autistic individuals. Things like that, like the cure aspect, can be super harmful and can have a really negative influence on public perception. So shows like that sort of encourage the idea of a cure of reducing the effect that it has on other people. That's really more, the harmful aspect of the media that we want to try to get rid of. But also the question of who should play autistic characters on screen is debated hotly, I would say, with some advocating for actors on the spectrum to be given priority for leading roles. And there are so many talented autistic actors available, but neurotypical actors are still often cast in the roles to be playing neurodiverse characters. So, we still have a long way to go, but we're getting there. Nonetheless, accurate and respectful representation of autistic characters is crucial for promoting understanding and acceptance. So, it's another part of advocacy. It's another aspect of advocacy is proper representation in media. And I think overall, while the increase in autism representation is a positive step, it's essential that these portrayals be authentic, nuanced, and respectful of the diversity within the spectrum. So, being multifaceted and having more than one autistic trait, but not having every single autistic trait that you've heard of and try to cram it all into one character, because it's a mess. It's a mess. It's hard to understand. But yeah, this accurate representation, it can really help combat stigma, broaden perspectives, and provide a sense of belonging for neurodivergent people and neurotypical people.
One show that I actually did recently check out that I really appreciated, the autistic character was played by an autistic actress, and it's the new, they remade Heartbreak High.
Yeah, Heartbreak High. Yes, Heartbreak High.
I love that character so much. Oh, she is awesome, and I really like her friends too. She did a beautiful job in that show, and I felt the portrayal was really respectful. And I wish I had friends like her friends when I was in high school.
Yeah, Chloe Hayden also, she's so great. One of her YouTube videos, I think, was what made me realize I was autistic, or what made me like do more research about it and eventually realize I was autistic. So she's great.
Yeah, I found her through TikTok, and I was like watching this stuff, and then I'm like, oh, and then I found out like through her about Heartbreak High, and I'm like, okay, gotta watch this show now. I was worried that the show might be like more focused on like with teen shows, like the romance tends to be a heavy focus. It's not. The focus is more on friendship, and I like that.
Me too, yeah.
I want to talk about two specific pieces of media right now. I want to talk about a bunch of them, but right now I want to talk about two specific ones. that are very much the stereotypical white male version of Hollywood's autism. And number one, that's Rain Man. I have to start with Rain Man. His character represents only one very tiny portrayal of autism, and it completely fails to capture the full diversity and complexity of the spectrum. Given that autism is a spectrum disorder, it affects people to different degrees. Rain Man does not reflect this wide variety. He reflects the savant. It's cringy, like to the 10th degree. Like it's the hardest thing to watch. I don't know if you guys have seen Rain Man, but it's
I
hard
have.
to watch.
Yeah, the amount of times that I heard about Rain Man when I told people I was autistic and the comparisons they made, I'm like, I never want to watch this movie. But please don't compare me to that because that is definitely not me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did it was in grade 8, we did a compare and contrast of that movie with the book A Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime.
Mm-hmm.
Which actually, that book, I think that was the first. I remember when like this one thing happened with the character where it's like they thought he'd killed the dog, so he got arrested or whatever. But he's like, so he had all his personal like art, like whatever stuff on him was like put in a bag or whatever. But he's like, I need to have my watch with me. That part I related to.
Yes.
I'm like, I need to have like this one, like, because he always like wanted to know what time it was, but like whether or not like whether it's a time, like just having like a specific item with you to keep you grounded. I related to that.
Yeah. Well, and that's important too. Like, can we relate to what's being shown on the screen? Because if it's not relatable, then it's hurtful, honestly. Okay, so the other one I wanted to talk about is The Good Doctor. So The Good Doctor has such mixed reviews and such mixed feedback, and I know that even the reviews in this particular gathering of the 5 of us today could vary on this, but The Good Doctor has been criticized for perpetuating stereotypes of autism through its portrayal of Sean Murphy, played by Freddie Highmore. And while it really gathered a lot of praise for bringing autism to the forefront of mainstream television, it also faced a lot of backlash for presenting a one-dimensional and very stereotypical depiction of the white autistic male. And there are a couple of reasons why it's considered a stereotype of autism. One is the savant syndrome. So he's depicted as a medical genius with exceptional skills in diagnosing and treating patients. And this portrayal aligns with the stereotype of autistic individuals as savants, possessing sort of extraordinary abilities in specific areas like mathematics and memory. While savant abilities do exist in some individuals, they're rare and not representative of the majority of people on the spectrum. A couple of other things are the social skills deficits, very stereotypical. That's not to say that these aren't accurate, but they are combined stereotypical. So he struggles with the social interactions and communication, like many of us, and exhibits stereotypical traits like difficulty with eye contact and interpreting social cues and expressing emotions. Okay, this is fairly standard autism stuff, right? But his portrayal has been criticized as being exaggerated and simplistic, reducing his character to that collection of stereotypes. Another criticism it received, and these are not criticisms from me, this is just things that I've been reading. But another criticism it received was the dependence on neurotypical characters. So the narrative of The Good Doctor revolves around his interactions with neurotypical characters who often serve as mentors or his guides, like they're always having to teach him something. And this dynamic reinforces the idea that autistic people are dependent on our neurotypical peers to navigate everything in the world rather than portraying them as capable and independent people.
I just wanted to say that it's always annoyed me, the whole savant stereotype of autism in media. Like, what I genuinely believe that stereotype can do far more harm than good.
Oh,
Sure,
definitely.
sure there are people who are naturally predisposed to understanding certain kinds of information at a more rapid rate, but there are most people, regardless of typicality, are just. I mean, like I can speak for myself. I'm not a particular savant. I'm just a regular person who's trying to make my way in the world, and I think the whole savant stereotype really does put some unnecessary and unfair strain on autistic people to kind of live up to that. And then when they don't, because autistic people are just people and they're they vary from individual to individual. When they don't measure up to those ridiculously high and often unreasonable standards, you have the neurotypical people going, "Oh, why don't you? There must be something wrong with you if you're not a super genius." When in reality, at least coming from my experience, I'm just probably one of the most average people on the planet.
Yeah, there
Like
are
I'm boring.
actually, yeah, there are actually several times where I have felt almost verbally attacked by people who got mad at me, insisting that I don't have some special savant ability after I told them that I'm autistic. And it, like, there are times that it got really uncomfortable and almost scary. And that's not something that's really fair to put on anybody.
Yeah. I mean, the only special power I have is the ability to eat multiple donuts in a row. But
I mean, you can pun with the best of them though. Your like dad joke game is next level, I will
This
say.
is true.
when does a joke become a dad joke?
Oh no, when?
When it becomes apparent.
The thing about The Good Doctor that seems to be getting some negative feedback is there seems to be a little bit of a cure narrative. So it occasionally frames Sean's autism as a problem to be solved or something to be overcome, suggesting that he would be better off if he were neurotypical. This obviously perpetuates, again, that harmful narrative that autism is a defect or disorder that needs to be cured rather than like a natural variation of human neurology, which is what it is. Yeah.
I personally find it incredibly ironic that that people who are all for this cure nonsense, they're like, oh, it's so difficult to be autistic. I'm always whenever anyone brings that up, I'm like, oh gee, I wonder why it's difficult being different different from the majority in this world.
As
It's almost as if the
people,
systems in place don't benefit us.
Mm.
Gasp.
yeah. The one thing I do appreciate with The Good Doctor that I hope they do bring into other shows is
Mhm.
some of the visuals around like sensory overload that
Yeah.
they've used a couple of times.
Yep.
And the visual thinking, because I very much relate to like the visual thinking for the problem solving for different aspects. So like I found those visuals really neat to actually see portrayed on a show,
Yeah,
and
that's
I hope
awesome.
they bring some of that into other shows with more relatable characters.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Media has a profound impact on the public understanding and attitudes towards autism, towards everything, but in our case, towards autism. And some of the impacts are that it shapes perceptions, it can influence attitudes. There is an educational value to the media. There's an impact on self-perception. So what I mean is positive and relatable portrayals can foster a sense of like validation and empowerment. And that's really what we want to see, right? We want to feel validated and empowered when we see ourselves up on screen. And then, of course, the influence on policy. Media representations can influence public discourse and policy decisions related to autism. Positive portrayals can generate support for initiatives aimed at improving services and supports for autistic people and their families, while negative portrayals may hinder efforts towards inclusion and equality. So, like, the impact of media portrayals on public understanding underscores the importance of accurate and respectful and inclusive representation. And it's important that the media promotes empathy, understanding, acceptance, and it can really foster a more inclusive and supportive society just by having better representation. So I want to talk about a few more shows and series and films and see what you think about these examples of positive portrayals. The show Atypical, the Netflix TV series. Have you guys seen that one?
Some of it.
I watched I got into I think the second episode, and then something like secondhand embarrassment happened, so I just stopped watching.
Okay.
That's
I found the second season, I think, is when they brought in the support group,
Mhm.
and I really liked that because it showed a lot of different people on the spectrum, and each one of them was very different from the next one, which was
Amazing.
really cool.
Yeah.
There were some things that were very minimalized that I felt shouldn't have been minimalized, and some things
Okay.
that were way over the top
Okay.
that was like, I have never known anybody autistic who has ever been that over the top.
Okay.
And it was probably just them like figuring out how to work it, and I found the character much more balanced and a lot more relatable in the second season. But
Okay.
yeah, I found the first season very, very difficult. And then somebody was like, yeah, it gets better in the second season. So I was like, okay, I'll give it another try.
Mhm.
And I did. And I was happy that I did because the second season was much better than the first season.
Okay.
I kind of felt the same way about the first season. I think it did get better after that. I didn't like the first season as much. I mean, I didn't like the whole thing in general enough to. I watched it kind of all at once, and then I think I haven't finished it. I don't think I really want to, but I think it did get better from the first season.
There's a film called Mozart and the Whale. I don't know if you guys have heard of that one. It's inspired by a true story of two adults with Asperger's syndrome at the
I
time.
love that one.
Yeah.
That was actually the first autism representation I ever watched that I was like, I actually enjoy this.
Yeah, it had really great reviews. It's gotten a lot of good feedback. The Temple Grandin film.
Oh yeah.
It's biographical, obviously. Depicts the life of Temple Grandin, an autistic woman who revolutionized the livestock industry with her innovative designs for animal welfare. It showcases her unique perspective in that it like Kayla, you were mentioning earlier, it shows her visual way of thinking. And actually, that was probably one of the coolest parts for me about that movie. But it also talks about her strengths and contributions while addressing the challenges that she faced, from advocating for herself to eh, getting the right things in her body so that she could live, right? It was an excellent portrayal, and not only did Claire Danes do an amazing job, but Temple Grandin was there consulting throughout the entire process. So that it was an accurate representation. And then the last one I want to talk about that has really good reviews from our community is called Please Stand By. Any of you seen that?
Yes, I did enjoy that one. I feel like the character is relatable, mostly from other people that I know who are autistic.
Mhm.
Like personally, not personally relatable, but definitely reminds me of other people that I know.
Yeah.
And so I really enjoy that. And it was a fun movie too, which was really cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like a comedy, right? It's a comedy drama. So the I just watched it, and I really liked it too. It follows a young autistic woman as she goes to deliver a Star Trek script to a competition. So she's written a script, and it offers a really interesting portrayal of her like passion and creativity and determination, but it also addresses the societal barriers and misunderstandings that she encounters because of her autism.
Yeah, I thought one of the things that I thought was so cool too was like even in the movie, like her family's going, "No, you're not capable of doing this." And she's like, "I totally am, and I'm going to go do it and prove you wrong,"
Yep.
which I thought was super cool.
Yeah, the determination factor was out of this world for sure. Autistic self-advocates play, as you know, a vital role in shaping media narratives about autism by providing authentic representation. Also, by providing an authentic perspective towards the actual process of creating that piece of film or television or whatever it is, it gives a sense of not only diversity but empowerment. It allows us to be involved with education and advocacy, and it sort of just touches on a variety of ways for people to learn about and accept and love autism. And so contributions of these really cool autistic actors help foster like understanding and acceptance and inclusion, because people love the media and they love seeing things on the screen. And so if you can present things to them that are accurate, it's what they are exposed to, it's what they're going to believe. And so we want more of this representation. And so we want people who are able to give their real autistic perspective while performing their craft. And so a few people that I want to just mention really quick are Dan Aykroyd of Ghostbusters fame, Temple Grandin, who we just talked about, Daryl Hannah from Blade Runner and Splash, Anthony Hopkins, and Chris Packham, who is a wildlife presenter and conservationist. These people are all autistic, and they are out there in the media doing their thing, showing everybody that autism is not a hindrance to your career. That in itself is really, really cool. Okay, so the importance of promoting authentic representation and diverse perspectives. Number one, fosters inclusivity. Number two, challenges stereotypes. Number three, promotes empathy and understanding. Number four, reflects reality. Five, encourages innovation and creativity and addresses underrepresentation. So these are things that can eventually drive social change. Like media has the power to shape norms and societal values. It's amazing what the media can do, because this is where we get our information, whether it's from a tablet, from a phone, from a television, from your computer, whatever it is, whatever source you're getting your information from, there's a lens. And it's important that this lens be authentic so that these norms and societal values that we have make sense and work for everybody. So some criticism of neurotypical actors playing autistic characters include authenticity. So many argue that neurotypical actors cannot accurately capture the nuances and lived experiences of autistic people. So as a result, the portrayals might rely on those stereotypes we talked about earlier, leading to a lack of authenticity and a misrepresentation. Missed opportunities. Casting neurotypical actors in autistic roles may overlook really talented actors who could bring a more authentic and nuanced portrayal to the character, a more real and true character. This is a huge missed opportunity to provide meaningful employment and representation. So, we're missing out on a lot of not only great talent, but we're cutting out a huge portion of highly employable people by not employing autistic actors to play autistic roles. Because how popular is autism in media right now? It's pretty popular. The perpetuation of stereotypes, obviously. Okay, so critics argue that casting neurotypical actors in autistic roles perpetuates stereotypes and reinforces misconceptions. This contributes to the marginalization and, I guess, like stigmatization of autistic people by presenting a very limited and often inaccurate portrayal of our experiences. Underrepresentation. So the casting of neurotypical actors in autistic roles may further contribute to underrepresentation of autistic individuals in the entire media industry as a whole. So by not providing opportunities for autistic actors to represent themselves authentically, it reinforces barriers to inclusion and perpetuates those systemic inequalities that are so prevalent in society today. And lastly, ethical considerations. There are ethical considerations surrounding casting of neurotypical actors in autistic roles, particularly in terms of authenticity, representation, and respect for the diversity of the human experience. Critics argue that prioritizing authenticity and inclusion casting decisions is not only ethically responsible, but also artistically and socially beneficial. There are no downsides. There are no downsides. So I want to talk just briefly about some strategies for promoting critical media consumption among audiences. How can we make sure people are viewing accurate representation? We can develop media literacy programs. We can provide access to reliable information, encourage questioning and reflection. Okay, so even if you're with your friends, encourage your friends when you're watching something to question the messages that are coming across their screens. Promote diversity from media sources. So if you see something that you think is a really great representation, share that on your personal social media. This is an easy thing to do. It's so important, and we have the power to do that. We have all these platforms that are there for us to do that. So these are easy things that we can do to increase our media literacy. Foster dialogue and discussion. So having these discussions like we're having right now, have these discussions with your friends and your family. Talk to people about the shows that we talked about. Empower active media consumption. So again, share important things, share the right things, participate in online discussions, write reviews. If you think a show is really, really great, write a review. Provide resources and tools. So offer things like fact-checking websites. There are tons of fact-checking websites out there.
What I like to do anytime I see a movie that's representing some type of diversity, I like to go to the actors' IMDb pages and find out if they actually if they actually have lived experience. So like if a character is a wheelchair user, I like to go to do my research and be like, is this person actually a wheelchair user? Because I think that that's important, because there are also actors out there who are wheelchair users, and why not use them instead of putting an able-bodied person in a wheelchair? Like, oh, there's this amazing movie called, it's based on a true story. It's called Rescued by Ruby. And the police officer has ADHD and dyslexia, and the actor who plays the officer, well, I can't remember which one he has, but he does have one of them. Because I mean, if you're portraying somebody with both, it can be more difficult to find an actor who has both, but he does have one of the two. And yeah, so I like to do my research and make sure those things are being portrayed by somebody who can actually relate to it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Can I talk about a portrayal that I really like of autism, a show that wasn't mentioned? So it has a similar name to something that you mentioned, but it's Everything's Gonna Be Okay. I love that show so much. It has a lot of different autistic characters, which is something I really like, because I feel like some shows don't know that you can actually have more than one autistic character.
Yeah, that was actually the show that was the first time I saw two autistic characters interact on screen.
Yeah, there's a autistic queer relationship in it. There's autistic families in it, multiple of them. I love that so much because I've never seen that before, and like I have a very autistic family. It's very genetic. Like my older sister's autistic, my mom was autistic, a bunch of my cousins and aunts and stuff. Like it's just really, that's the only time I've ever seen that. And also I like it had a representation of like late autism diagnosis. Like one person Is that kind of a spoiler? Like in the second season, one person realizes that they're autistic and actually goes through the whole process. It kind of, has them like taking quizzes online and being like, "Oh my God, I've been masking," and like
Amazing.
and they use the word mask. They use like all these, words, and it's really great.
Yeah, because it was also that the creator of the show, like, I think like didn't think he was autistic,
Yeah,
but
he
then
realized he was
but then
autistic
as the show
throughout
goes
the
on, he's like,
process.
wait
Yeah.
a second, I am autistic.
Mhm. Yeah, and
That's
like I love
amazing.
that there's like a relationship between like two characters that are both autistic, and then autistic families. There's like a bunch of different autistic characters, and they're all like very
Queer,
different people.
it's Ace, it's
Yeah.
otherwise split attraction model.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very queer, it's very autistic, and I love it so much.
I want to talk about the importance, like the impact that you have when you support initiatives that support inclusion and diversity in media. So like representation matters, right? Representation in media plays a crucial role in shaping attitudes and perceptions, and supporting positive representation. It ensures that marginalized voices are heard and represented in the larger media landscape. Also, it fosters empathy and understanding. Of course, we know this, right? We want greater understanding, and the best way to do that is by exposure. So we need to give people a wide range of perspectives and experiences, and that includes the autistic experience. It also challenges stereotypes and biases. It creates opportunities for underrepresented voices, and overall drives social change. So media has the power to influence social norms and behaviors, as we talked about before. By promoting inclusion and diversity, media initiatives can drive positive social change and contribute to building a more equitable society. And equity is also something that is of great importance, and it's how we're all going to be, how we all have a seat at the table, right? And so opportunities for improvement. It's we can just collaborate more. We can talk to autistic voices. We can have these conversations. Increasing representation of autistic individuals behind the camera. So getting autistic people on your crew, get them on set. If they're not acting, great. They don't want to act, put them somewhere else. But if people want to be involved, get their perspective in there.
Autistic writers.
Yes.
So then, like, if there's an autistic actor on set, you have the autistic writer. There's more like, I guess, like more like collaboration, but also like they can see the character written and be like, yeah, this is easier for me to portray.
Exactly. It's the
I mean, actors only.
thing.
Yeah, I feel like something has an autistic actor, that's good, but actors do only have so much say in what they do. They aren't the writers, at least a lot of the time. They're directors.
Autistic directors.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have the autistic people in front of the camera, but also behind the camera in like the higher up roles.
Yep, exactly. And so like we can help by advocating for more funding and support for independent media projects, and for funding for autistic actors, and for autistic crew people, and for autistic writers, and all kind of creatives, and engaging with media companies to develop inclusive policies and practices. So something the Voices of Autism has done in the past is we've worked with the Vancouver International Film Festival to help them build a sensory-friendly theater experience. So they put on relaxed performances, and they asked us to come in and help them redesign their theater. So we were able to send some advisors from the team down there a few times to check out the space and see sort of, what we thought might be good for the space, and what other people thought might work for the space. And we met with them, I think, maybe a total of 3 times. Kayla and I met with them twice, and they gave us a tour. They asked for our input, and they gave us a second tour when they were all finished to show us everything that we had said that they actually put into place. So just by asking us for our perspective, we were able to help them create a more accessible experience for everybody, not just for our neurodiverse peers. So that's what we mean by engaging with media companies, is help people build their understanding and see like the beauty in having multiple different perspectives. So How can you make a difference? You can raise awareness. You can support authentic voices. You can advocate for opportunities for individuals to tell their own stories and share their own perspectives in the media. You can engage with media outlets yourself. You can educate others. You can write reviews on things you like or don't like. You can call attention to these things. You can demand accountability. Call out harmful stereotypes, misrepresentations, call out biases, and advocate for more responsible and respectful depictions. Promote diversity and representation. So advocate for greater diversity and representation of all autistic individuals in all forms of media, including film, television, literature, digital media, like what we do. Celebrate and support all media projects that feature diverse and authentic portrayals of autism, even if it's not something that really spoke to you. If you felt it was a good representation, celebrate that. And be an ally. Stand in solidarity with autistic people and their families by actively supporting initiatives and campaigns aimed at promoting autism acceptance, inclusion, and empowerment. That does it for this week's episode of The Pulse. As always, if you have questions or ideas to discuss, or if you'd like to be a guest on the show, send an email to voa@pacificautismfamily.com. We look forward to more of your great questions. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.